Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Helbling Festival. It is our autumn festival. My name is Catherine Shi. I am the Academic Director for Helbling, Mexico and Central America. I'm also your host for today's webinar. And on the screen, you will see our Helbling team, our General Director, Koen van Landerhan, and Ana Rosales, who is going to be the co-host on the chat room. So when you have any question, please just write on the chat box. And now let's welcome our General Director to give us a welcome talk.
Hi, everybody. And yes, welcome to the 4th out of 5 sessions that we're running. We see so many people from so many different places. Of course, Mexico all over, Central America, South America, some people from Europe. This is an event to meet old friends and to meet new friends. And that was the goal of this festival. And we hope that the talks have inspired you so far. If you attended the previous ones, we had music, thinking, soft skills, and today collaboration. And tomorrow, the last one with Jeremy Harmer.
This meeting is being recorded.
Togetherness.
So Helbling is a cutting edge and an award-winning publisher with teachers and student success at the core of our what we do. We celebrate autumn. This event is about, it's called the Autumn Festival. In Mexico, we celebrate autumn with the Day of the Dead and with pumpkins and with a lot of orange colors, which is coincidentally also the color of our company. Many places celebrate Halloween or other festivals, but in general, autumn is pumpkins, cinnamon, ponche, teas, getting together no matter where you are. So we want you to enjoy the session, and we hope this is good mental protein that inspires you for your online classes. So back to Catherine then.
All right, I'm going to talk about today's schedule very quickly. In the meantime, if you are the teacher who joined our Autumn Festival more than once, please send me the heart on your screen so we get an idea how many teachers are our new old friends already. Okay, so today's schedule will start at 10 o'clock as usual, and we will do 5 minutes introduction, and Lindsay will start his talk at 10:05, followed by Q&A sessions, and we will have a very exciting lucky draw. At 11:10, we will close the session, say goodbye to you, and send you the digital certificate. Now let's talk about Lindsay, our speaker today. Lindsay, he is an award-winning writer, teacher, and which you have read already on the bio when you register. And he is also the speaker for, he's the author for Studio and American Studio, our latest 6 levels course. But there's something you don't know about Lindsay. He actually has lived in Mexico over 3 years. He used to teach in Chiapas. I saw there are some teachers from Chiapas today. He used to teach in San Cristobal de las Casas in Unach. And in that time, he met his wife, who is a French teacher. Then they got married in Mexico, and now they live happily with 2 boys in Spain. Okay, and what Lindsay really missed in Mexico, as you can see on the photo, he missed huarache and chilaquiles. He not only in Mexico, he also traveled to Guatemala and lived there. We also see teachers from Honduras today, so welcome. And what has he learned during pandemic? That's all the question we asked to all the speakers. He actually has learned Thai cooking. So we all are teaching online now, and we all try to do pair work and group work with our students. And yes, we do need more support and new ideas. So today, Lindsay is going to talk about the crowd control. So I'm hoping Lindsay will turn on his video now so everybody can see him. Let's welcome Lindsay. Let's give him a big hand.
Hi, everybody. Hi, hola, hola. I was so excited to see all the names of different places in Mexico on the list here. Yes, I have a very strong ties to Mexico. I got married in Mexico. I got one of my first big teaching jobs at UNACH. So it's always a pleasure for me to talk to fellow Mexican teachers. Obviously, I would prefer to have been there in person to see you, but because of the situation we're all in, you're getting the next best thing, which is I'm joining you from a distance, from where I live in Spain, in the south of Spain now. I'm going to be talking today about, we called it online crowd control, because like many of you, I imagine, I have been teaching online for ever since the pandemic started, but I've been teaching online for a lot longer than that. I think I've been teaching now online for maybe 18 years. So before we had kind of video conference things, doing things with Blackboard, with chat, with Skype, with with Moodle, all different kinds of things. Obviously, I think it's a lot easier now than it was when I started 18 years ago, but there's still problems. And one of the problems is pair work and group work. So when we are teaching online, especially in a thing like Zoom, this isn't as easy as it is sort of in the face-to-face classroom. So in today's session, what I want to do is we're going to look at the use of pair work and group work in ELT. I want to look at it just to get kind of a general feeling of where we're at with pair work and group work. Then I want to draw an important distinction between open and closed group work, because this has suddenly become something that's quite important for online teaching, yeah? And a technique that was used in open pair work and group work is called the fishbowl technique. So I want to talk a little bit about that and then move on to talking about breakout rooms. And finally, look at activities for online pair work, which can also be used offline. A lot of these activities that I will be talking about were originally offline. They work well online as well, and I've done both of them, okay? And how we can use images, different apps, and video to help with pair work, both online and offline. Can I just ask a very quick question? Just type into the chat box here. I imagine most of you have taught online in the past year and a half. Just so I know, just a general idea, what were you using if you were teaching online? Zoom, Teams, Google, or something else like WhatsApp, or, you know, you were just doing it with the whatever. So Zoom, Meet, Teams, Meet, Google, all of them. People have tried lots of different ones. I'm getting lots of Zoom, Teams, and Meet, Google, etc. Okay, excellent. All right. People had their own programs that in the schools that they were using, Zoom without breakout rooms, Telmex, Zoom, etc. Okay. So all of you are familiar, I think, with the term breakout room and with many of the tools that we have available to us. All right, but let's go back and look at pair work more generally now. First of all, in ELT in general, why do pair work and why not? And this was my original talk before we all went into lockdown. I was giving this talk and talking about why is it that when I give a workshop to teachers, let's say there's 50 teachers or 70 teachers in a room, and I say, now we're going to do things in pairs, I always see some teachers go, like they don't want to do pair work in a workshop. So why we should all be sort of like, yay, pair work, but still some teachers don't like doing it themselves. Other teachers say, you know, maybe I have big classes and so on. So why pair work and why not? Let's look at some reasons. First of all, why might teachers not want to do pair work? And we'll get into like the online thing in a moment. Sometimes it could be considered like a waste of time. Definitely can be the case online. If you've been trying to use breakout rooms, it's a whole thing. You have to put them in the breakout room and so on. But even in the face-to-face, if you have a big class, that could be considered problematic. Sometimes teachers say pair work is overused. Like we use it all the time for everything. So it ceases to become meaningful. There can be interpersonal problems, meaning like, I don't want to work with Javier because Javier is strange and I don't want to work with him, or I only want to work with my friend. I don't want to work with this other person, etc. Right? So they can get interpersonal problems. Sometimes students are not clear on what to do. And sometimes pair work can have awkward questions. So getting people to like talk about personal things if they don't know each other very well can lead to a situation where people are like, I don't like pair work. And I think for me, when I work with teachers in workshops, sometimes they feel if the questions are awkward and they don't know the other teachers, they don't want to sort of get into it in a pair work thing in a workshop. And finally, many teachers say here, it's hard to control. It can be hard to control, especially with large groups. When I worked in Chiapas, I also taught in a secondary school. My university classes had 27 to 30. My high school classes had 50. I had to have a microphone at the class. Pair work was hard. As somebody said, some students were shyer, others did other things. So why would we even do that? All of those negative things, why would we even do pair work? Well, one, the idea is that it increased student talking time. So if we're learning a language to speak it, if people are doing pairs, then you're multiplying the amount of people who can speak. There's also an idea that with some pair work things, 2 heads are better than 1. It gives the learners greater independence. So there's been a big movement in English language teaching to try to get the students to be more independent. So pair work is part of that. It gives teacher a chance to assess and work with individual learners. So, and this is another problem with the online pair work. In real pair work, in a real face-to-face classroom, a teacher can walk around. And so you can hear like, I see that Guadalupe is having problems. I'm going to go with that pair. Or I know that Jose is a bit problematic. I'll stand close to them and I can kind of work with individuals and assess what they're doing. Yeah. Okay, and also that pair work promotes cooperation. So that's another good reason to do it. And finally, there's a belief that pair work is how people learn, that people can learn not only from the teacher, but they can learn from each other. So some people believe that pair work, the idea of working together, students can learn from each other, from their peers, and not just from one source of information. So pair work in the pandemic. Obviously, in the face-to-face classroom, pair work, social distancing makes pair work hard. So does masks and so on. So this has been one challenge if you were doing face-to-face classes. If we're doing online classroom, I have a growing belief now that certain kinds of technology favor certain kinds of teaching. And I think that video conferencing favors a certain kind of teaching, which is more like what I'm doing now, a lecture, because originally these video conference tools were for meetings and presentations. Yeah. And they are being used by teachers, and teachers are using them, some well, some better, some maybe not so well, but they are not originally made for education. They're originally made for other things. And so while you can teach with them, it sort of favors a certain kind of teaching. It's hard to do pair work and group work in video conferencing unless you have breakout rooms. So that makes it particularly hard, but not impossible. And even if you have breakout rooms and have used breakout rooms, I imagine you all wonder, it's not so easy to monitor. Like if I'm looking at 30 students doing pair work in class, I can see, aha, they're not doing something. Oh, they're doing well. Oh, they're speaking in Spanish. Oh, she's using her phone. But in the breakout rooms, I can't see. I see my own screen. I go into a breakout room, but maybe somebody isn't there. Maybe it's quiet. So it creates a nice sort of frustrations. Yeah. Okay. And it takes more time to set up. So I find that in online teaching, I'm doing less pair work. Because I'm trying to do it better, and I'm not able to do as much quick and easy pair work as before. So I said, remember that pair work, for example, is something that's been so common in course books and ELT in general. And if you look over the past 50 years, you can see it's become even more and more. So if we look on this page here, on the left side of your screen, you see a 1967 book. There's no instructions for pair work at all, nothing. So you don't even really know what to do. You're supposed to look at the picture and figure out, there are some teaching notes and stuff. If we look at a 2020 course book, let's say my one, for example, but it's similar to all of them, circled in red, how many work in pairs, vocabulary, work in pairs, vocabulary, work in groups, reading, ask and answer with a partner, reading, work in groups. So there's a lot of pair work stuff. Yeah, loads of different ways of asking it. And in fact, as a writer, I find that I use work in pairs so much that I type work in pairs. I'm always typing it. And finally, I sometimes make the mistake you can see in red. Yeah. So we have different ways that we put it in books. You know, work with another student, work in pairs, work in groups of 2, A and B, work with a partner, ask and answer. And then if I type too quickly instructions, it says work in Paris. But just to show that there's so many times that we use this. So it's very commonly used. Two classic pair work activities before we go back into online is the jigsaw one. And I think someone mentioned this in the chat. There's a lot of things happening in the chat. It's going quickly, but I saw someone mention it's hard when one person has some information, another person has others. Jigsaw is one example of that. The jigsaw is a group activity where each person has a different reading or a different bit of something and they have to work together. What's interesting was this was not originally ELT. It was originally an American one to create more cooperation and was part of desegregation. In fact, according to the research that I found, as classes were like getting more mixed with different nationalities, different races, they wanted to have people work together. So they were using it with children, and it was about peer teaching. And then in the 70s, it started getting used as a language activity, especially in the language lab. Yeah. When I worked at UNACH in Chiapas in the 1990s, we had a language lab, a laboratorio de idiomas. And so you would sometimes have like these elaborate jigsaw things where each person has a different bit of listening and then they have to put it together. If you look at the Google chart, the engram of the word jigsaw classrooms from 1975 to 2005, you see it's becoming more and more frequent. So it's becoming more and more of a thing being used in class. Another one is the information gap. And this information gap is where, for example, I have some information, you have another. Like I have a page with something, like a clock with times, and you have a different one. We have to compare information. This was again primarily used in language classrooms, though, to start in language classrooms, and was referred to as a communicative activity. And one of the first famous books was in 1978 called Pair Work, where there was a Pair Work A book and a Pair Work B book. I don't know if anyone saw this book. I had one in the UNACH. We had copies of Pair Work A and B. It was a very old book. And by the time 1979 and communicative language teaching, CLT, was in full force, it was seen as a main part of that. Yeah. So this was the pair work kind of thing. And again, we see the rise of information gap as a word from the 1950s up to the 2005. Let's look at a couple of examples. Here's an example, and I'll say why this is important. Because there's modern versions of this now. So pair work here had student A had one page of things and student B had a different page of things. Yeah. Or what I love here is an example of pair work A, they have to describe the cassette recorder, like the boom box. So you can definitely see the period of time this was written in. So these were like another version of the book, but this was a kind of, people had two different books. Finally, bringing it up to modern day, the latest version of the the Common European Framework, for any of you who are into European framework stuff, has done an update in 2018 where they mentioned two new skills that are very dependent on pair work. One is interaction, which involves parties co-constructing discourse. So spoken interaction is considered to be the origin of language. So this is, they keep saying about it, how fundamental interaction is. So that obviously is a good methodological reason to use pair work. And mediation, the user, this is a complicated way of saying it, the user acts as a social agent who creates bridges and helps construct or convey meaning. Sometimes within one language, sometimes from one language to another. So mediation, and a simple example would be if I had a menu in German and you were like, I don't understand, can you explain? I mediate that menu to you by explaining, maybe not just translating, but explaining the dishes on it to you. So that's one example. There's a lot more written about it. Can't go into it now, but both of these depend on pair work and group work. So we now know that it's common in ELT. We know why. There's lots of reasons. It's been around for a long time. What about the latest stuff, using it online? So I want to say that there are two ways of doing pair work and group work online. One is open pairs, and two is closed pairs and breakout rooms. Open pairs is stuff that is very old technique. Open pairs would be, for example, in the face-to-face classroom, me saying, okay, Catherine, say as, don't really do this, Catherine, but for example, I would say to one student, Catherine, you ask Kuhn about his weekend. And then Catherine asks that. And I say, now, Kuhn, you answer. And then I would say, now, Kuhn, you ask another student about that. And so you're doing it openly, right? So everyone can hear. And then the other way is closed, where everybody talks in pairs together. And that's what we'd be doing in breakout rooms. But with open pair work and open group work, there's a term called the fishbowl technique. And the fishbowl in the face-to-face classroom, if you look at the picture, you can see it's almost everybody puts the chairs around, and in the middle, there are 3 or 4 chairs in the middle. And the fishbowl is some students come and sit in the middle in the fishbowl, and they talk. Yeah, so the teacher sets a task and everyone listens to the people in the fishbowl, but the teacher then can say, okay, now you leave the fishbowl and someone else go in, and so on. So they move people in and out, but there's only one small group talking and everybody else is listening. Yes, so that's why they call it the fishbowl. Yeah. Okay, let's look at how this works in online. So for online pair work, yeah, you need to nominate 2 students to do an activity. So everybody's in the room together. So like we're all in the room together. I've got my 20 students, 30 students, whatever, on Zoom or Meet or whatever. I'm not using breakout rooms. So I nominate them like, okay, we're going to do example with Catherine and Kuhn in a second. If you're using Zoom, this is a Zoom thing only. You know the 3 little dots in the corner of the picture? If people, they might not be on video, but if they are on video, they have 3 little dots in the corner. If you are the host of the meeting and you click on those 3 little dots, there's an option that says spotlight. And spotlight means that camera will go to the middle of the screen, and you could spotlight another person and they go to the middle of the screen. You could spotlight a third person and they go. Even if they're not talking, their camera would be on. Yeah, which means that you're almost putting them in the fishbowl. So the students then do the activity, but everyone else sees them. Even if they're not talking, they can see them in the fishbowl there. The rest of the groups watches and is given a task. For example, listen and whatever. This can be done for discussions with the rest of the group thinking of their own answers. And then you take the spotlight off one person and you put spotlight on someone else, and they come into the group and they do a group activity as well. So that's the whole. Here's another activity that works with it. You nominate 2 students and you spotlight them. Student A gives their idea about a topic. At certain point, student B claps their hands. They go like this. Student A now has to express a completely different idea from what she was saying before. So for example, 2 people are in the middle and one person has to start talking about food, and they say, I really like Italian food. So it's like, I like Italian food. I like pizza. I like spaghetti. And then the other person goes, and the person says, and I really don't like Italian food. I think it's very spicy. I don't like garlic. I don't like pasta, etc. So it's a kind of fun fluency activity. Yeah. So one person does the clap, the other person, and then they switch roles. You put 2 other people in the fishbowl as well. I have lots of other ideas that I'll be going through. Am I going too quickly, by the way, or is everyone okay with the speed here? Just get some thumbs up if we're okay. Okay, no problem. If people are on their phones. Okay, great. So that's an example of open pair work. We're going to do an example with Catherine and Kuhn so I can demonstrate what I do with students. Another one is breakout rooms. So we obviously have our breakout rooms. We'll do the activity in a minute, Catherine and Kuhn, so you don't need to be on right now. I'll tell you. For breakout rooms, I tend to plan when I'm going to do breakout rooms before. So I look at my material, my book, my whatever I'm using, and I'm like, we'll do breakout rooms like once or twice in an hour-long classroom. I know some teachers who do a lot more because they're comfortable and they have a small group. With me, it's like a whole thing sometimes to make sure everyone's in the room. So I want to use it and plan it. Always remind students, this is in Teams or in Zoom or whatever, to join the breakout room if it doesn't happen automatically. Sometimes they have to join, so you need to practice that. Get them to check their audio and video. I monitor, so I go round first, one time round, just to make sure everybody's in. No, Rebecca, it's not only in Zoom. You can do breakout rooms in Teams, not as good. For some parts of Google Meet, I think a paid version, you can do breakout. And I'll talk about other free tools that are coming out now at the end of the talk. I also tend to share the material first. So I say, make sure you find it in your book or on this Google Doc or whatever. So when we're all together, I share the material. I'm like, you know where it is? Okay, now you'll use it in the breakout room. Okay, we'll show examples and give a specific task. So I don't just say, just do exercise 3. I give them a task that they have to report back something. And so I break the stages for a breakout room task into 5. I set up the task. So I set it up. I do a demonstration perhaps. They complete the task. Then they need to report back on the task. So we all come back and I nominate a couple of pairs or groups to say what they did. And then I give some feedback of some of the things I heard. Okay, so these are the different stages. And then we look forward to the next element or how this task could help for something else happening later. Yeah. Let's do an example though to see. Oh, hold on. Let's get one here. All right, I'm going to show you a couple examples. Catherine and Koen, wait a minute. When we come to it, it'll come. So I want to now talk about some pair work activities that you can do in breakout rooms or in face-to-face lessons. We'll look at some examples that you can do also in open pairs. One here is questionnaires. So questionnaires are great for pair work stuff. One is I write 10 questions and I put them on a slide. So I have 10 questions on a slide and the students need to take a photo of the slide. I number the questions. Students then go to a breakout room and then they have a photo of the questions and then student A has to call out a number. So student A says 5 and student B asks a question and then they swap roles and repeat, but they can't look at the questions first. So they have to call out a number and whatever. And so they need to go through all 10 questions. Then I get them to report back and we do some feedback. And then if I did it again, they would make their own questions and number them. And then they would do the same thing. Student A says a number, student B asks a question. Now I can get Catherine and Koen to turn on their videos. Okay, so here I'm going to give an example of open pair work, yeah? And so I have my 2 students that I've asked to turn on their videos. If we were in Zoom Meet, I would spotlight the videos, but you can see them now, right? So there are, how many people are in our room right now? There are 382 of you. So I'm still doing an open pair work with 382. Catherine, can you be A? And Koen, you are B. I want you to read the dialogue. Ready? Go.
Yes. Morning.
Yeah, hi.
I'm making us some eggs.
Nah, I'm good. I'm just gonna have some coffee and toast.
Really?
Yeah, is that okay?
Fine, it's fine. Pass me the bowl, please.
Sure, here.
And the salt.
Yeah.
Do you want your coffee now?
What did you say?
I said, do you want your coffee now?
Fine.
Is everything okay?
Okay, so we had a conversation room here. So a little dialogue here. I get them to do it. I might correct some of their pronunciation or something afterwards if they were my students. Now we're going to do it again. Get ready, because what I did now is I blacked out some words. And so you're the same roles. Catherine, you're A, Koen, you're B. But now I want you to invent new words to go to the spaces. So make new words. They have to be like food and drink things. Okay, ready? Go.
Good morning.
Yeah, hi.
I'm making us some chilaquiles.
Oh, no, I'm good. I'm just gonna have some tea and toast.
Really?
Is that okay?
Fine, it's fine. Pass me the cheese, please.
Sure, here.
And the totope.
Yep.
Do you want your tea now?
What did you say?
I said, do you want your tea now?
Fine.
Is everything okay?
All right. Thank you, everyone. Little applause emojis here for our 2 volunteers. Okay. Yes, Antonio, this was based on a conversation I might have had with my wife on a Sunday morning. Okay, so this is, then what I would do is if I had breakout rooms, I would ask students to take a photo of this slide or I would, if I had it on Google Slides, I'd give them the link. And now they are going to do it in breakout rooms. I circulate, and then they report back what food did they talk about, what meal was it? Was it lunch? Was it dinner? What other kind of things? Yeah. And you can make any of this yourself with making a little slide like that, and then have the animation of the little boxes, like filled in boxes to cover certain words. Okay, so that's one. Another one that I like is for questionnaires is with this, I do this sometimes in open pair work. I put one student in the middle, so they have their camera on, and then people have to complete the sentences for that person, guessing. So they would, like, say someone is on camera. Let's say Catherine was on camera. Don't do it, Catherine. We don't have time. But and then I would nominate someone else who would have to make the sentence. If I could travel anywhere in the world, and they finish it. It's a second conditional. And then Catherine has to say if it's true or not. But everyone's trying to imagine that they are Catherine here. Yeah, if I could speak another language, I would choose to speak, etc. Once we've done a few examples, go into breakout rooms, take a photo of the thing. Now do it with each other in breakout rooms. Yeah. So that's another. So instead of questions, now they're completing sentences for a partner, but they have to imagine the answers first, and then the partner says if that's true or false. This works with second conditional, adverbs of frequency kind of things, past simple as well. Memory and prompt cards. Okay, now I'm going to give you an idea of how you can do this kind of information gap without necessarily having the different things. So here, they have a series of pictures, right? Look at the pictures for 15 seconds, try to remember all the things, turn the pictures over. How many things can you remember? This works in the face-to-face. What I sometimes do is I get students to make their own cards. So I get them to make little pieces of paper like this and do little drawings. So I'm like, make 6 little drawings of whatever, different kinds of furniture things. And then they have to try to remember all the things. They show their partner in the breakout room, their little pictures, this, put them down. And then the person has to guess. It says, you showed me a chair. Yes, there's the chair. You showed me a whatever. Yeah. And Jose is right. You can't take a screenshot if you're on WhatsApp as well. So I think there's something about breakout rooms or just online classes where if you actually show something, like you show a piece of paper with something written on it, people are like looking to see it more. There's something nice about that tactile thing. So I like doing that as well as a kind of activity. Instead of vocabulary, you can do about getting them to do about experiences. So here they have to turn over a card. So they'd have to pick up a card. You get them to write this on things, and they look at the picture, ask about your partner's experience. What things have they done? What things haven't they done? And so they have to make a sentence. For example, have you baked bread? Have you read War and Peace? Have you seen a ghost? Have you won a tournament? Have you, I don't know, whatever, but done a Sudoku, etc. Yeah. So this is another similar kind of thing, making their own cards to ask about experiences. Okay, now we're getting to another really interesting aspect, is where we start bringing in video and audio to it. Okay, so I'm going to play you a little situation here. Okay, what I want you to do is just listen. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions afterwards.
Excuse me, how much is this blue jacket?
Let me see. It's $150.
Wow, that's expensive. Can I try it on?
Of course. What size are you?
Small, I think.
Okay. The mirror's over there.
Thanks.
Can I help you? I'm just looking. Okay. Let me know if you need any help. Well, maybe you can help me. I'm looking for a jacket. The blue jacket in the window. It's for my boyfriend. What size is he? Medium, I think. Let me check.
Okay, so your typical ELT video, it's in a shop conversations, all right? What size was the man? What size does he think he is? Someone write in a thing. From what do you remember? This would be what I'd be doing with the students, asking about the small. And the woman was looking for a thing, and she thought he was, what size did she say? Medium. Yeah. So I'd ask a couple of questions. Here we have, then the students, I would ask them to prepare a conversation like this on the video using different clothes. Yeah. So student A has something, they take a picture, you are the customer, what are you looking for, what size do you need? Student B, you are the sales assistant, etc. Right? So your typical thing, yeah. But what am I doing different now? And this relates to a book that I wrote with Helbling, is I always wanted to have that picture as a teacher. Yeah. So here we see the shop, right? So we see this big thing. And what I want to do is put this in the classroom so the students can actually do the conversation with the picture behind them like this. Yeah. And that's what we did in studio, actually. So I'm just going to mention that very quickly. For every video thing, there was also the image that the actors were using was available as a separate image that you can use in the classroom or in the Zoom room, or as a slide for them to do the conversation, or they could put as the background. You know how you can change your background? I've got little things. They could put this as the background, and then they are now in the shop doing talking about the shop, yeah? Or just put it as a big picture to cover your whole slide. So we include their, yeah, or as Diana says, students could share their screen with the picture and then be doing that conversation. So for every dialogue that I wanted to do, I wanted to have like examples of those. Oh, well, you don't see more, but there are ones in the park, in the street, in the library, in a doctor's office, in all of these things. There are what we call videoscapes, where students can kind of, you can give them the image and then they can, or you can put it on a slide and then they do the thing. And if I have a face-to-face classroom, I would have them come up to one pair, once they've practiced, come up to the front and do the activity with the videoscape as the background. Yeah. Okay. Another thing that I wanted to mention, again in studio, but also even if you're not going to using studio, I'm going to be saying how this will relate to something I'm giving you at the end of the talk that Helbling has been nice enough to give me to give out. And that is the idea that, you know how in the back of the book, in the back of a course book, there's always like the A and B, you know, so it's like student A, turn to page 125. Student B, turn to page 136. Do you know what just type yes if you understand, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. You see, always at the back of the book, there's a whole bunch of these things. Yes. Somebody said yes. Excellent. I always like doing these activities when they came up in the book as a teacher. I'm always like, oh, good. Now we got something, because also, you know, they were very good to give that information gap. We talked about information gap at the beginning. But I did have some problems with them. And one was, well, have you ever had a problem with these? What possible problems do you have with them? Like when they're at the back of the book like that? Anybody just let me know what kind? Yes, Rebecca got there first. Get lost. I always got the students, profe, que página? I'd be like, what page? Okay, page 133. Or then I realized I would sometimes go to the pairs and I'd be realizing like, oh my gosh, you're both on the same page, you know, or as Liz says, they don't know how to ask a question. I could maybe solve that by doing a demonstration of the activity. The other thing that I find is, as Eduardo says here, they can't find the section. Like on one of those pages, there's like 7 of them, right? And so you have to like, this one is about unit 7, this one is about unit 5, this one is about unit 4, etc., right? And I always thought, wouldn't it be the best if they could have the separate things on their phones? So instead of like going to page 134, they just like tap on their phone. I'm student A, tap. Here's my thing, tap. It fills my whole screen. I have color on it. I don't see any other things. And now you just press student B, you press B and press B here. And now we can do the activity with me looking at my phone and you looking at your phone. Yeah. And so to have activities that looked like this. So on the phone here, we have student A, what are you wearing? Look at your picture. Your partner has the same pictures with some differences. Talk to your partner and find 10 differences. And student B is looking at their one there. Student B has that on their phone. So you see now they don't have everything else in the book around it. They only have that picture, and they only have Jelly, they don't read a QR code. This would be within an app. So it would be like an app thing where it's like student. Remember I mentioned at the beginning of the talk that pair workbook from 1978. If you remember, the pair workbook from 1978 had two books, the A book and the B, the A app and the B app, or within the app, an A and a B kind of thing. Yeah. And so that's one of the things that that I wanted to do here. So having student A and B. Of course, this only works if you have phones. So you'd also, so here's an example of it looking like it does on the phone, but you'd also want to have it printable for classrooms where not everyone has a phone, or for classrooms where they're not allowed to use phones, etc. Yeah, so that kind of thing. So I wanted to make sure that they were also printable, that they could be printable on a whole page. Again, you would only have your section, like you would only have your A, and B would just have their B, and not have all the rest of the kind of other activities all around them to do that work. Another thing that I should mention, and I know this is mostly about online, but with face-to-face classrooms, is that when I was doing these pair work activities, I also would do something that I called speaking stations. And so speaking stations was an expression that I used when I wanted students to do the pair work kind of properly. And it helped if they had a separate piece of paper, or they had the phone, or whatever, right? And the speaking stations meant, instead of them like sitting next to each other, like I'm here and my buddy's here and I'm just doing that, I said, you need to turn your chairs so that you're facing each other. Yeah. Because often, if they were just sitting next to each other, they might kind of do the pair work, but they might be looking at something else. Whereas if they are like actually physically sitting in front of each other, the pair work I found worked a little bit better. I'm like, go to speaking stations now, turn your chairs, look at each other, especially with teenagers. Yeah. And that's why, in a way, the breakout rooms and the spotlighting for open pair work in online classes, in some ways, has made some of the pair work a bit better, because they are looking at each other. In the face-to-face classroom, sometimes they're not really looking at each other. They're sort of doing the work. I don't know, tell me if you've seen this. Bueno, okay, red. And then the other one's like, vale, okay, green. What do you like? And they're sitting next to each other. Whereas when they're like face-to-face, they do speak a little bit more. Okay. So here are examples of those pair work kind of things that relate to different units, right? And even though these are from Studio, the book that I wrote, I wanted to give some of these away so that you could have these just for yourself anyway. And so I think, and Catherine and Koen will explain this afterwards, I think what we're going to be seeing is in the thank you email that you get, I've asked them to include a pair work pack. So in the pair work pack, it'll be a pack of PDFs, which will have these colorful pair work activities that can be shared with the students digitally, or they can be printed out, color printed and laminated, and then cut in half. And each one of them is quite big. So like magazine pictures. In a way, they're sort of like those pair work activities from the 1970s, but they're more modern. And there's some tips on using pair work and just kind of general stuff. Like this is one of a 10 or 12 page pack of things. Because I know when I go to workshops and webinars, I like to go away with things. And so we're doing it digitally, not printably here, but still it's a little digital present from me to you. And Helbling was really nice that they said, okay, yeah, we can do that. That's no problem. We'll design it up. We'll make it look nice. It's something that you can have. So definitely wanted to share that. Okay, we're beginning to come to the end of it. I knew that there was also reason to do, I lost my timing along the way, but Koen, are we I can talk about a couple of other things, or we can go slowly into the Q&A and we
We
can
got
discuss
time.
more things in
It's
the
okay if
Q&A.
you want to, but or we can do Q&A. So up to you. You still have time.
Yeah, I know I still have time.
Good.
Yeah, but I wouldn't mind doing a bit of the Q&A and then discussing anything else. And if other people put things in the chat, I can also mention these things. And I can go on more. People are asking for other things here. I rushed a little bit because I got a bit nervous. But anyway, Koen, Catherine.
Okay.
Okay,
All right. Thank you very much, Lindsay. Okay, you can in this session, actually, I think I really find the fishbowl technique so interesting because actually it can actually rotate and then much easier to control the time because quite often teacher has more problem about the time management for their online classes. And Koen have a few questions already, so I'm leaving the Q&A session to Koen.
Yes, thank you, Lindsay. This was a great talk and lots of good examples and practical examples, and people are very interested. And then there were a lot of comments about, yeah, but I use Google and Google doesn't have breakout sessions and things. Somebody said, I have large groups. That was the first question. I have large groups, and how do I do breakout sessions with my 40 students and keep their attention there?
Okay, great. So there's a couple of things here. One is large groups, and another one is
Let's
no
do
breakout.
large groups first. Let's do that.
Okay,
one
let's do
first.
large groups first. So with the open pair work, what's great is like that, you know, you're very much in control. So if I usually begin like with new groups, I do more open pair work type things. So even here we were 380, 400 people. I began to do a little bit. I could have done a little bit more. Yeah. And someone just asked about the cameras, which I can answer as well. But so I would begin with the open pair work. And I can do that. I've done that easily with groups of up to 50. I have an attendance list, so I will alternate it a bit or get people moving in and out of it. Now, obviously, it's not as much as I'm able to do in the face-to-face classroom. There are trade-offs. I mean, it isn't necessarily as much, but we're trying to do a little bit. Yeah. With students opening their cameras, sorry, that was another one. Let me come back to that one. I'll answer your second question, Koen, and then I want to answer a question about cameras because everyone asks about that. The second one is with large groups, and what to do when you don't have breakout rooms? Well, then you are stuck with really just doing the open pair work or open group work. If you are able to, you can do that spotlight thing, and you could put more, like 3 or 4 people, and set a task where they do things, and then people kind of come in and out. So you say, I'm now going to ask Anna to come in, and now Zachary, you can go and sit out. Now I'm going to ask Ivan, etc. Again, it's not as ideal, but we can get some of that going. Yeah, I think the idea here is we want to slowly move away from it always being what I just did here, which was just a teacher talking all the time. The other issue that comes is like, what happens when they can't put their cameras on? So I've been doing a lot of work recently with teachers in Africa, doing remote teaching, and the connection thing there is the problem. If there are connection problems, there's nothing they can do. But I think a lot of the times is they don't want to turn their camera on. So if you can teach them how to get the background so they don't have to show like their house or whatever, that's one thing. 2 is they don't have to have it on all the time. So if slowly you get to the idea, like with open pair work or things like that, we do an activity where you have your things on just for a little bit to do the speaking, and then you can turn it off again. And then I would tell them in advance, some of you will need to put your videos on for a little bit. I think the thing with the cameras on and off is sometimes it's not clear. So the students are like, I can't put my camera on, because they think it's either I have to have it on all the time or off all the time. Whereas you could, and if I have it on, it doesn't mean that everyone has to have it on. So I'm experimenting with activities where just 2 people have it on, or 1 person has it on and people ask questions to that person, and so on. Yep. Or as someone else has pointed out just on the chat here, dividing the class into blocks with some of the people on camera at that time and others not. Okay, sorry. Koen, was there anything else you wanted to?
Yes, there was this other question about the tools people use. Some people were saying, yeah, but I use
right,
and
yes.
I don't have breakout rooms. What to do?
Yes, that's right. Okay, so If you have Zoom, you can use breakout rooms. Incidentally, this is a little pro tip. If you're getting your own Zoom and for some reason you don't see the breakout rooms, you need to find it in the settings online, not in the app. So you need to go online or just ask Google, like, I can't turn on breakout rooms in Zoom. So that's one. There have been a couple of other competitors beginning to arrive, and I'll put the names in the chat box here. Because like a billion teachers, whatever, or millions and millions of teachers had to teach online all of a sudden in 2020. And the number one tool became Zoom. Like even just asking you, most of the teachers here, you know what Zoom is at least, and many of you are using Zoom. So obviously what this meant is like there are a whole bunch of other companies that are like, I want some of what Zoom is getting. And so we're going to start seeing more competitors to Zoom that also will try to do breakout rooms in another way. I'm going to share two examples. Is that okay here? I'll just share the name of them to look. One of them to look for is called Wonder. So if you do a Google search for Wonder, like video conferencing, that's one, yeah? And the other is called Gather or Gather Town video conferencing. So do a search for either of those. Both of those are free, right? And both of them have breakout rooms. The way that Wonder works is that you can see your little face in a bubble, and if you drag your face towards someone else, both of your faces join together and you're in a little bubble together as a breakout room. And as a teacher, you can talk to everybody, and then you can, it's like you literally see their faces move around. They don't need the videos on. They just need their audio on. You don't need to have video. They can put the video on, but they move around, and then you can move them into breakout rooms, or you can talk to everyone. Gather Town is similar, but you're in a little, like a little virtual classroom. Like you can see your little person walking around and stuff like that. And then you sit down, and if you sit down next to someone, you're in a breakout room, and the teacher controls it. But I would recommend taking a look at those two as another option if you have your own classes or want to try something different. I've been experimenting a bit with them. They're interesting. And for the moment, because they want to get attention, they're free. I don't work for either of them, so it's not.
Okay, thank you so much, Lindsay. There are so many questions. So for teachers, if you still have questions, do write on the chat box. We will collect those questions, and later we will interview Lindsay and try to give you an answer via our newsletter. All right. Okay. Meanwhile, I'm giving Lindsay a little bit 1 minute break because I've been talking for 15 minutes. And I will introduce what Lindsay been saying. His new American Studio is our 6-level course, and it's a new space to learn because you can learn online. You can also learn face-to-face. And this is a young adult and adult course we produced during the pandemic time, especially for your online teaching. And as you can see, well, before I show you, it actually have the platform you can practice, you have the digital book you can do, and you also have the mobile app for you to do pair work. And what is very special is it has 12 channels. I saw a few teachers ask, how do I keep my student engaged? And so they will talk in the breakout session or something. And the point is always about the topic. If your students are interested in the topic and they feel it's actually quite linked to them, it encourages them to talk more. So the 12 channels actually circulate in our 6 levels, and every topic is kind of reappear in one level and range from education, art, sports, travel, living, science. So you could learn about how ketchup was made. Do you know the ketchup in Mexico is more spicier than all the other countries? And then you also learn about how do I learn webinar in journalism when I was in university, and why all the business moved to China, and how do we start our boutique business. So you have all kinds of topics. And what we are going to do today is we are going to offer you a 14-day free platform access. And that is for American Studio. That includes with the code, you will be able to access our ebook plus. So you can see the interactive book with annotation and notes and media. And on the platform, you can see all the cyber homework, including pronunciation. And with this code, when you download Helbling Media app, you can see the vocabulary beats. It's kind of jazz chant. and also the pair work Lindsay just showed. So if you are two teachers from the same university, you can actually do online pair work yourself already. You do the A and the B. And in the platform, we also have exam practice, including TOEFL, TOEIC, IELTS, and Cambridge exams. You also have projects, so your student can do a group project together and even do the online. For teachers, you always have headache to pair exams, especially now online. On the American Studio, you can find the online tests, including placement tests, unit tests, midterm, and final, and they automatically graded all your students' test and give you a final report. And yes, of course, we have interactive whiteboard, and that you can contact us for that. Okay, so that is the code we are going to offer you. After the session, you will receive a thank you email, and that will including the PDF Lindsay just mentioned, and we will also give you a click button, then you can request the 14-day access code. Now is something very important, the very exciting lucky draw. I'm going to invite Lindsay back to do the lucky draw for us. Okay, let's talk about the prizes first. In this Autumn Festival, we offer 45 e-readers to all the lucky teachers, and including classical readers and original readers, range from A1 to B2. Today, the prize from Lindsay, all the topic actually your student also can find on YouTube for movies. The Secret Garden, Robinson Crusoe, 12 Years a Slave. Now Lindsay is going to announce the winner. So I'm going to turn my lucky wheel. Lindsay, you are ready?
I'm ready.
Good. The first winner.
Three, two, one. Our winner is Sarah Marinthia Lopez Ledesma.
Congratulations. The second.
The second, 3, 2, 1. Ana Isabel Arcos. Congratulations, Ana.
Yes, felicidades. Now the third one.
3, 2, 1. Laura Ariadna Adame Alatorre.
Yeah. Okay, congratulations, 3 lucky teachers. Each of you will get 3 e-readers, and our team will contact you via email after the event. And today, for all the attendees who stay with us over 30 minutes, you will get the certificate of attendance and signed by Lindsay. And it comes with a QR code. If you scan the QR code with your mobile phone, you will be able to share this certificate on your LinkedIn, your Twitter, and your Facebook. So let everybody know you have attended our 4th talk of Helbling Autumn Festival. Before we finish, let's say thank you to Lindsay and give him a thank you virtual hand. Thank you very much, Lindsay.
Thank you, everybody. Muchas gracias. Thank you to all of you. Hope to see you one day in person. Enjoy the rest of your sessions, and thank you very much for listening to me. And yeah,
okay.
Enjoy your pair work.
Thank you.
Happy teaching.
Thank you very much, Lindsay.
Okay. Bye.
Tomorrow we are having our last session, and it's by Jeremy Hammer, and we are talking about togetherness. And so here I'm going to say thank you to you and goodbye, and with the music of one of the studio author, Robert Campbell. He is also a musician. So here, a lot of teachers want to listen to this song again because we played this in the first talk. Bye. See you tomorrow.
Jokes and candy, a marching brass band, a carousel, giants, jugglers, a girl turning cartwheels in the sand. You follow the arrows, and in the white light arcade you stand. Your heart beating, 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 your ticket in your hand. They told you you only get one ride, so make it the best ride you can find. And your eyes open wide with the feeling inside as you leave your shadow behind. And here we go higher and higher, hold on, we're going up, we're going round. Here we go higher and higher, hold on, we're at the top, we're going down. Faster and faster we go, the world spinning round below. Here we go higher and higher, hold on, we're going up, we're going round, we're at the top, we're going down. Colored lights, jokes and candy, how soon the memories fade. Tinker Tailor, soldier sailor, rich man, poor man, you're just a face in the passing parade. You follow the arrows, how you wish you could have stayed. But soon it will be morning, and time to leave the white light arcade. They tell you you only get one ride, so make it the best ride you can find. And your eyes open wide with the feeling inside as you leave your shadow behind. And here we go higher and higher, hold on, we're going up, we're going round. Here we go higher and higher, hold on, we're at the top, we're going down. Faster and faster we go, the world spinning round below. Here we go higher and higher, hold on, we're going up, we're going round, we're at the top. And here we go higher and higher, hold on, we're going up, we're going round. Here we go higher and higher, hold on, we're at the top, we're going down. Faster and faster we go, the world spinning round below. Here we go higher and higher, hold on, we're going up, we're going round, we're at the top.
All right, goodbye. See you tomorrow.